A very warm welcome and a very good evening to Saturday Sport Classified here on Manx Radio AM 1368. Your latest look at all the results, the reaction, the analysis to all the football, rugby, hockey action and more across the Isle of Man and further afield so far today. So let's kick things off with the classified scores across Isle of Man football, rugby and hockey for today, Saturday the 28th of September 2024. Starting with football. The Canada Life Men's Premier League. St John's United 1, St Mary's 2. Ramsey 3, Russian United 2. Laxey 0, Foxdale 5. Onken 3, Union Mills 6. Ayr United 3, Corinthians 1. St George's 0, Peel 8. Ardern and Druggan Limited Division 2. Douglas and District 2, Colby 8. Douglas Royal 1, Castletown 6. Governors Athletic 4, Michael United 7. Douglas High School Old Boys 4, Braddon 4. Canada Life Combination 1. St Mary's 4, St John's United 1. Russian United versus Ramsey awaiting result. Foxdale 1, Laxey 1. Union Mills versus Onken awaiting result. Corinthians 3, Ayr United 4. And Peel versus St George's awarded as a home walkover to Peel, St George's unable to field a team. Ardern and Druggan Limited Combination 2. Colby 6, Douglas and District 0. Douglas Athletic versus Pulrose United awarded as an away walkover to Pulrose United, Douglas Athletic unable to field a team. Castletown versus Douglas Royal awarded as a home walkover to Castletown, Douglas Royal unable to field a team. Michael United versus Governors Athletic awaiting result. And Braddon 1, Douglas High School Old Boys 2. Turning now to rugby. The Regional 2 Northwest. Douglas 53, Vale of Loon 6. Counties 3, ADM Lancashire Cheshire. Colne and Nelson 45, Vagabonds 0. And now to Isle of Man hockey. The Mixed Premier League. Vikings B 6, Valkyries B 3. Castletown Celts 2, Valkyries A 3. Harlequins A 1, Backers A 2. Backers B 0, Vikings A 4. In Mixed Division 1, Valkyries C 3, Vikings D 4. Backers C 1, Castletown Southerners 1. Ramsey A versus Vikings C awaiting result. In Mixed Division 2, Backers Colts 2, Harlequins B 4. Ramsey Ravens 1, Castletown Cushags 0. Castletown Camags 4, Valkyries D 2. In Mixed Division 3, Harlequins C 0, Backers Mixed Bucks 0. Ramsey Rookies 0, Castletown Cosney 8. Backers D 5, Castletown Carrick 1. The Mixed Under-15s League. Valkyries 2, Castletown Sabres 2. Harlequins 0, Backers 4. And Ramsey 5, Castletown Sharks 0. Those are your classified football, rugby and hockey results so far for Saturday, the 28th of September. And we have, just in the last few seconds as well, got another result that we were waiting for in, and that is in Canada Life Combination 1, and it has finished Russian United 3, Ramsey 0. So that's a result from Canada Life Combination 1. Well, plenty to go through with what's been some great football, rugby and hockey action, both on and off island today as well. And we'll hopefully, as if you missed it a few moments ago, we'll hopefully be looking to catch up with the SC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones after his side's 3-1 victory over Barnoldswick Town at the Silent Night Stadium earlier this afternoon. But in the meantime, let's turn our attention to local matters on another busy day. And our football correspondent, Tony Mepham. Tony, very good evening.
Good evening, Rob. Yeah, it's been a great afternoon, hasn't it? Plenty of goals in all sports and plenty of excitement. And, football never fails to deliver, does it? There's always something to talk about.
Absolutely there is. Well, let's turn to the Canada Life Men's Premier League then to start with, and over at Mullinaklowey it finished St John's United 1, St Mary's 2. A setback for St John's United, Tony, and St Mary's, who went into the very final stages of this game down to 9 men. They had a player sin-binned and also McPhee sent off for 2 bookable offences. So St Mary's holding on for a big 3 points there against the St John's team. We spoke to their manager Sam Brown on Friday Sport Preview last night, who was feeling pretty positive going into this.
Yeah, it is. He'd be disappointed with that because, 11 against 11, I thought it would be a close game. But, when they go down to sort of 9, I know it was 10-1 sent off and the other one was a sin bin, but they still managed to hold on there, St Mary's, so credit to them. But Joe Berquist got the first one for St Mary's. Therese Thompson got the second one. Not too sure who got the St John's goal. If you can text us through, please, 166177, but a big 3 points for St Mary's.
And then up in the north of the island, the Ballaclone Stadium, a meeting of 2 sides whose seasons haven't really got going yet, despite them having quite lofty expectations, really, between Ramsey and Russian United. And the big result has gone the way of the hosts. They've just edged out what seems to have been a very entertaining game there at the Ballaclone Stadium. Ramsey 3, Russian United 2. Yeah,
that's a big 3 points, that, for Ramsey. And, Russian, they're in, or were this morning, in 9th place in the league. And they got 4 points now. But with Ramsey getting those 3, they go above them with 6. We've got no information of any goal scorers in this game. So again, if you can text us through, 166177.
What's been the challenge, I suppose, at the start of the season? Both these sides, Ramsey, of course, as we know, very strong last season, the Hospital Cup winners for 2024. And Russian United, of course, always have lofty ambitions as a club. But what's the reason for the slow start for both sides, even though Ramsey have got the result today, do you think?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you, Rob. At the start of the season, I looked at Ramsey's team sheets and you can see 1 or 2 sort of key players missing. Matthew Montgomery has been a big player for Ramsey over recent years, and he was in the combination, a couple of others as well. But it just hasn't sort of gelled together for them. And I think massive expectations by the Ramsey supporters and their players, but it hasn't gone to plan. But today, a team that was above them in the league, they've beaten them, so that's a good thing. But it hasn't happened. And same for Russian. And I don't know what's sort of happened there as well, because I looked at their team sheets and that's a strong team. So whether they're just not being able to compete with the teams above them and just sort of battle it out with the players, the teams alongside them, but the players are there. And I think Andrew Moody would just be a little bit disappointed the way it's gone for them. And they've got another game in the next sort of week or so. So see if they can get 3 points in that one.
Indeed, we've just had another result in, thank you very much, from Ardern and Drug Unlimited Combination 2. The only outstanding result we were waiting for. It finished Michael United 2, Governors Athletic 3. Kenny Diak and Ryan Brew, the scorers for Michael United in that defeat. But Ardern and Drug Unlimited Division Combination 2, I should say. Michael United 2, Governors Athletic 3. Thank you very much for that information. Moving then back to the Canada Life Men's Premier League on this very busy day. And looking at the other games taking place, a big one really at Glen Road as well, that we all thought on paper would be quite a close and entertaining affair. 2 sides in good form, Laxey and Foxdale, but a very one-sided scoreline in the end, Tony. Foxdale, what a result that is at Laxey, winning by 5-0.
Yeah, and it was sort of Laxey, you just don't know where it's going, because Laxey have been keeping clean sheets and scoring plenty of goals, but today it didn't happen. And when you look at the goal scorers, you can understand why. Lee Gale with a couple of goals, Jay Chatwood with a hat-trick, so well done to both of them. And if you look at the league tables now, Rob, Foxdale, if I've got my sums right, go into second place now on 15 points, a point behind Peel. So incredible sort of when you think that they were only promoted this year. But when you look at that forward line, Jason Chalmer, Jay Chatwood, Lee Gale, you can understand why the goals are flying in. But it's all down to the defence as well, keeping things nice and tight. And it's all going to plan for Foxdale.
That's the point there as well, isn't it? You know, they've clearly got the goals in there at the moment. Chatwood and Gale, the stars of the show, really in front of goal. But if you've not got the defence to match it, it doesn't always pay dividends for you. But a clean sheet today against the Laxey side, who, as you pointed out, Tony, have been putting in a fair few goals of their own recently.
Well, they have, and I'm going to defend Jay Chatwood here, because a lot of people used to say, oh, Jay, it's all right. He's winning the Silver Boot, winning Division 2 Player of the Year. Let's see how he does in the Premier League. And I think he's proved his point, because he got himself into the Ireland setup. He was, second in the goal-scoring tally when he played for Corinthians. And here he is playing against the Premiership sides and some top defenders. and dealing with a hat-trick, and he's so good. I watched him last year against Governors, it was, up at Colby, and he's an absolutely fantastic player, enjoying his football. Okay, he's got a young baby now, so he's probably sleepless nights going through that as well. But when you see that strike force going forward, Lee Gale's one of the best players on the island, but you look at Jay Charmer, and it's going to be interesting to read, Rob, after the next couple of days, who wins the Player of the Month in September, because I think there's 3 or 4 standout candidates, and we'll leave that to Eric Clegg and his panel to decide that one. But yeah, a lot of good players at the moment, scoring plenty of goals.
Well, elsewhere over at the Niverson Stadium, Onken met Union Mills and a 9-goal thriller here, Tony. Union Mills coming out on top by 6-3. A Union Mills side who've had a great start, had a bit of a wobble in the last couple of weeks, but getting back on track this weekend. Yeah,
and I'll just cover our backs on this one, Rob, because I had through that Onken won 6-3, but Onken only 3 scorers. So I think he's got it the wrong way round. So if it is wrong, we apologise, but we can only go on the information provided. We've got no goal scorers from Union Mills. Come on, Ryan Kelly, you've got a mobile phone. You're never off it. Get the scores through, please. But for Onken, it was Andy Asbridge with 2, Jackson Gatt with the other one, and a big 3 points there for Union Mills.
Indeed, and then in the north of the island, well, this was a tasty fixture on paper between 2 of the early frontrunners. Ayr United, the defending champions, 3rd going into this weekend, albeit with a game in hand up against the Corinthian side just above them in 2nd here. And Ayr United, well, this was a fixture, I think, a bit of a surprise to them as well as everyone else. They ended up losing this particular fixture to Corinthians last season, but the home side have come out on top this time. They've beaten Corinthians by 3-1.
Yeah, and I pumped for Corinthians to win this one just purely because the team looked good. They play well at Ayr United, and it was going to plan because I think it was 6th minute. It was Joe Middleton who got the goal to give Corinthians a lead. But then I got 2 text messages through very, very quickly to say that Corinthians were trailing 2-1. Sean Kelly with 2 really good goals. But I don't know who got the 3rd one for Ayr United, but it doesn't really matter because Ayr United now go on 13 points. So they're in 3rd position in this league with a couple of clubs like Corinthians, and we've got also Union Mills just breathing down the necks. But another good result and keeps the pressure at the top of the table with Peel and Foxdale.
When you mentioned Peel there, they were the ones with the responsibility, top of the table going into this weekend. They have lived up to that expectation again. And in style up against St George's at Glen Crutchery Road. Peel, 8-0 winners today. That's a big statement.
It is a big statement, but there's a bit of a story to this game as well. And I'll see if I can get the messages up on this one, because it was a real battle. And from what I'm hearing, St George's were down to 9 players. So I think 2 got sent off, and I think at one stage there was Simbin as well. But I've got here from Colin Moore, and thank you, Colin. St George's did well after conceding an early goal, the second coming half an hour later. But at 5-0, they paid the price for questioning too many of Peter Greenhill's decisions and had 2 players dismissed. Both were second yellows. One was Kieran McNulty. A great display once again by the youthful Peel ranks, and we've touched on that last night with Thomas Brown, and also covering the game last week against Ayr United. But Thomas today, a couple of goals for him. Toby Little, that's a new name for me, got a couple of goals. Ben Woodridge, who's chipping away in that left midfield role with goals. Oscar Bignell, I think that might be his first team goal for Peel. Rhys Oates on the score sheet, and Paul Whitehead back from injury getting the other one. So a super result that for Peel.
And then we have 4 games in Arderne and Drug Limited Division 2. And Tony, let's go straight to the game that you were at today, because my word, was this a thrilling game. We hoped it would be, and it's lived up to the billing. 2 of the early frontrunners in Division 2, Douglas High School All Boys, they were 3rd in the table, but with a couple of games in hand going into this, up against the current league leaders, Braddon. 8-goal thriller at Brackbury Lane. It finished Douglas High School All Boys 4, Braddon 4.
Yeah, and it was a humdinger of a game, and Nick Harvey it was who got the first goal. I think it was within sort of a minute, 2 minutes. And then it was equalised by Robbie Ward. It looked like it was going to be a cross free kick from Robbie, but it flew past the goalkeeper to make it 1-1. Then it was Nick Harvey got his second of the game. And then I've got a little bit confused on this one, Rob, because I've got 5 scorers down, but I'm not too sure who got the goal because I missed that one because I'm doing a report for you. But I know Cameron Brew
got... You need another pair of eyes.
Yes, Cameron Brew got 1. I know Alex Ringham scored 1 because I saw that one. And I thought Robbie Ward got a second one, so we'll let the boys fight out who got the 4 goals. But Dan Conrade got a goal for Braddon as well. So when you look at it, it was 3-1 to Braddon at one stage, and then Old Boys just came back into it. And it was a great game to watch in the end. And credit to both clubs for having a real good go at it, because you look at the league table now in Division 2, it's all nice and tight and everything to play for. And I know you have a little bit of favouritism to Division 2 because it's so ding-dong every single year since you've taken on your role up here. And I don't think this year is going to disappoint you, Rob.
I've been blessed from a neutral perspective.
Yes.
A neutral perspective, just want to make that very clear.
Okay.
Division 2, highly entertaining, and from a neutral perspective, we wouldn't want it any other way.
No.
Douglas and District 2, Colby 8. Good win for Colby here, Tony.
Yeah, it is a good win. Shame we haven't got Colby's goal scorers, but they were 3-1 up at half-time. Ben Hall and Adrian Skabucha got the goals for Douglas and District, but Douglas and District still struggling and rooted at the bottom of the table.
And another away side enjoying a good day today was Castletown after a pretty slow start to their season by their standards. 6-1 winners at Douglas Royal. Yeah,
it was. And, Nathan Cardy, he's a pretty impressive player when you look at it. He played for FC Alaman and, he's played for, St George, really good player. But he got a hat-trick today at 3-1 at half-time it was. And Alistair Ronan got one, Rob Tier as well, and Ollie Lee got the other one. So Castletown, another 3 points for them, and keeps them sort of climbing up the table a little bit if they can.
And the other game in Ardern and Drugger Limited Division 2, another goal fest here. 11 goals in this one. Governors Athletic 4, Michael United 7. Tony, Michael United still scoring goals for fun.
Yeah, they are, and fair play to them. And I think I've got the goal scorers in here now. I have. Thank you, Michael, for that one. And let's go with the home side first. And Dave Talbot, Carl Jackson, Fabio Capito, I think it is, and Michael Doyle got the goals for Governors. But for Michael, it was 2 for Jacob Langton, 1 for Kieran Lane, Liam Kane with a goal, Jordan Cowan, and Sam Greasley got a couple of goals. So on my reckoning, I think, if my sums are right, Michael go top.
We've just had another hockey result in. Thank you very much. If you haven't seen it already, it's one of the late pushbacks that's just come through to us in Mixed Division 1 and finished Ramsey A2, Vikings C1. We'll get more reaction to that with our hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham in a few minutes' time. Well, let's turn into the Canada Life Combination 1 results today. The early kick-off, St Mary's 4, St John's United 1.
Yeah, good performance by St Mary's, and this was going to be a good game, but St Mary's dominated it in the end. Haven't got St John's goal scorer, but for St Mary's, Jamie Skillen got one. Jay Corran got a goal, Dylan Vick as well, and Chris Dowling got the other one. So comfortable for St Mary's in the end.
And this one we were definitely keeping an eye on because 2 titans of Canada Life Combination 1, Russian United and Ramsey, and it finished Russian United 3, Ramsey 0.
Bragging rights to Russian, isn't it? And when you look at it, it's not going too well for Russian's first team at the moment, and Russian's combination are doing pretty well, so maybe dip into that pool and get some players out of that one. Haven't got Russian's goal scorers.
I have them in front of me right now. Thank you very much for whoever sent these in a few minutes ago. So it was Ryan Crawley from the penalty spot and then a brace for Hayden McClarney as well there. So good result for Russian United, of course. Remember that not the season before last, that winning all 22 games in Canada Life Combination 1, but it was ripped away from them by the Northern side last season as well. So is that a bit of an early statement in Combination 1, Tony?
I think it is, and when you look at the league tables, it's sort of proven that way. You've got sort of Onken in there who've been chipping away. You've got St Mary's who've won today against the 5th place this morning. St John's, Ayr United have picked up 3 points. But yeah, it's bragging rights a little bit, isn't it? But when you look at sort of last season, it was ding-dong between Ramsey and Russian for the title. It was Russian that took it. Ramsey who took it just in the end. But, Russian look as if they want to regain that trophy that they've lent, I think, to Ramsey for one season.
They'll certainly think that anyway. But elsewhere, Billygoat Park, it finished all square. Foxdale 1, Laxey 1.
I haven't got any information on that one. Nope.
And another result we were waiting on was in Canada Life Combination 1 between Union Mills and Onken. Tony, have we had any further updates?
Nothing through, no.
Well, if you are listening out there and you do have any information, Union Mills versus Onken, Canada Life Combination 1, please do text or WhatsApp us 166 177. 7 goals in the other one here at Bala Fletcher. Corinthians 3, Ayr United 4.
Yeah, I don't know how the game went, but certainly Corinthians have dropped 3 points in this one. Haven't got any of Ayr scorers, but for Corinthians, Lewis Radcliffe got 2, well done Lou, and Nigel Moody, evergreen, Nigel Moody with 1 as well. So Corinthians tried their best, but United just a little bit strong in scoring those goals.
And the one remaining game that was in Canada Life Combination 1, Peel versus St George's, that was awarded as a home walkover to Peel. St George's sadly unable to field a team. Ardern and Drugger Limited Division 2, Colby versus Douglas and District. Colby, commanding result, winning 6-0.
Yeah, no scorers from Colby, I'm afraid, but 2-0 it was at half-time, 6-0 at the end.
And then 2 games that didn't take place, starting off with Douglas Athletic versus Pulrose United. That was awarded as an away walkover to Pulrose United, with Douglas Athletic unable to field a team. And also Castletown versus Douglas Royal, a home walkover awarded to Castletown, Douglas Royal unable to field a team there. Elsewhere though, Michael United 2, Governors Athletic 3.
Yeah, thanks to the boys for putting the scores in, and you read it out before. Michael United's goals were scored by Kenny Dyack and Ryan Brew. For Governors Athletic, thanks Simon for the scores. Ben Sean got 1, Callum Wade got a goal, and Joe Stewart completed the scoring with that third one.
And finally from the local results today, Braddon 1, Douglas High School Old Boys 2 in combination 2.
2 of the top sides as well playing this one out. Good result for Old Boys. Drew Ward and Stephen Farragher were the goals scorers for Old Boys, and for Braddon it was Michael Walsh.
Tony, thanks very much. We'll be coming to you back in just a few moments. Well, we're going to turn our attentions briefly to FC Isle of Man, who were on the road looking to make it back-to-back wins this week at Barnoldswick Town, and they did so in style right at the end of the game. A quick-fire brace between Steve Whitley and Tom Creer, earning FC Isle of Man a 3-1 victory at Barnoldswick Town to keep them in contention towards those promotion playoff spots so far at this stage of the season. And we tried to catch him before, but the signal wasn't quite right over where FC Isle of Man were on their travels back to the island over the next few hours, but hopefully we can get a word with him right now. FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones. Paul, very good evening.
Good evening, Rob.
Well, Paul, let's get straight down to business. FC Isle of Man, 3-1 winners today at Barnoldswick Town. 1-1 for much of the game as well. You took an early lead and then pegged back, and it looked like Barnoldswick Town were applying a lot of the pressure throughout the game. But to score 2 goals late on, having soaked up that pressure as it seems, how pleasing is that from your perspective?
Yeah, really pleasing. I thought we actually started the game quite brightly and we were deservedly ahead. And, going into the game, I was a little bit worried about the state of the players, and what I mean by that is just the level of fatigue that's in their systems because of, the 12 away games that we played so far. And today was a very early start for everybody. And having played 3 away games in the last kind of 10 days, I was worried a little bit. And unfortunately, in the first half, we had some tired minds and tired bodies, really, and Barnoldswick got back into the game, and then probably could have scored a couple more goals before half time. So I was a little bit worried, I must admit, but the second half the players were absolutely fantastic, and the contributions of Charlie and Tom, especially from the bench, and also Joe and Josh, really helped us to get over the line. And we sustained a little bit of pressure in the second half, but they didn't have a shot for Adam Kelly to save at all, and we created 3 or 4 fantastic opportunities that we didn't score from, and 2 very good opportunities that we did. So yeah, very happy. Barnoldswick are a good, well organised side and difficult to play against. So it's good to come home with the 3 points.
And just to go off one of your points there, talking about the substitutes making an impact, Tom Creer, of course, on the score sheet today, but you've mentioned a couple of other names that came on to contribute. Does that give you a lot more faith? Well, you already had faith, as you've already said, in the squad, but does that just justify maybe some of the comments you've made about the depth that you've got there, that you've got players that can come on and make an impact in a game where sometimes it wasn't quite going your way?
Hopefully, as I've said for a long time, I believe in the players we've got on the Isle of Man and the player group we've got at the moment, and it's good to see them start to show that on a regular basis. And we had a very young group today. There was only 3 players over 30 with Jack and Kelly and maybe one other. I don't know where Steve is these days in terms of his age, but a really young group. And Barnoldswick are a very good, experienced side. And I'm just really pleased for all the players that they've contributed today and been able to experience that.
I think we may have lost Paul Jones for just a couple of moments there. I believe we have in terms of signal. We'll look to get back to him in just a moment. Hopefully he reconnects in the next couple of seconds. But we do have a full-time result from the netball today. The Manx Under-21s netball side. They've been taking on Republic of Ireland in their latest World Youth Cup qualifier match. It has finished in Cardiff. Republic of Ireland winners. Hopefully we've got Paul Jones back at the other... Paul, let's continue your train of thought before the signal cut out once again a moment ago.
I definitely have got my words.
I think we may have lost Paul Jones there, but Paul, thank you very much for your comments there on his side's 3-1 victory today against Bonaldswick Town in the NWCFL Premier Division. And if you missed it just a few seconds ago there in the netball, Republic of Ireland beating the Isle of Man under-21s by 63 points to 29 at the House of Sport over in Cardiff in the World Youth Cup qualifiers. Well, I'm going to bring Tony Mepham back in for just a moment on the footballing side of things. Unfortunately cut off there from Paul just with regards to the signal. They're making their way back to the island over the next few hours. But for FC Isle of Man, they were under the cosh a bit at times in that game, but managed to come up with the goods once again.
Yeah, it has, and it's incredible. And when I looked at the team that's gone over, I thought, crikey, some new names coming in there. And the older boys who have been there for quite a while now are going to find it a little bit harder to get back in, Rob. But no credit to them, and gives me a good banter opportunity on Monday, because I'm working with a few lads who from Bonaldswick town area, and they're supporters of them as well, and a bit of banter throughout the week. We're going to beat FC Isle of Man, and unfortunately FC Isle of Man have beaten them, so it's going to be a good day on Monday.
But it's been a good September for them largely as well, because bar that late defeat to West Didsbury and Chorlton away from home last weekend, that is the only blot really in terms of defeats. It's been largely a winning formula throughout September. And Paul Jones has talked in the last couple of weeks as well about how maybe he feels there's more to come from his side. Said it in the build up to this game, that there's more to come. They've maybe not quite hit the levels that they want to be at or think they can be at, but they're still picking up results.
Yeah, don't complain, Paul, because you'll play some good games and lose them. And at the moment, if you reckon you're only working at maybe 60-70%, then there is more to come. And next Saturday is going to be a big game for them, because I haven't looked at the league tables this week, but Ramsbottom, really good outfit, and they've already put a good performance in against them. So in front of a big home crowd, we hope it'll be great to watch them. And you know, now that they're climbing up the league, hopefully with winter months coming in as well, and people haven't got really things to do, they'll get out there and support FC Isle of Man, and that's what it's all about. They need the support from the Manx public.
And just very quickly before we come back to FC Isle of Man, I believe another result is coming from the local leagues that we were waiting for. Tony.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rob. And it's Onken. It's an important one because it's in Combination 1, and it's important for Onken because this puts them on the top of Cannon Life Combination 1, and 9-1 it was against Union Mills. Pretty impressive, scoring plenty of goals. Billy Coulter got 3, Lewis Dawson got 2, Connor Cook, Callum Dawson, Niall Stoddart and Aaron Raby. Thanks to David Rees. And if I may touch on it, Rob, I got the tour of Onken's new changing room facility and, clubhouse. Unbelievable. What a fantastic job that they've all done in there. And when you look at it, there's volunteers, contractors have been in and helped the club right the way through. And there's a lot of sponsors in there as well. Great credit to everyone involved, because I was blown away. Full tour right the way through, changing rooms, clubhouse and everything. Incredible job. You should be very proud of what you've done. And that's just the story of Manx football clubs. When there's something that needs doing, the community comes together and provides, and it's been a real community project. Well done to everyone involved.
Now, I'm going to word this question with, of course, all the respect to Onken, but it seems to be like the last couple of weeks when we've seen them charging up the table at this early stage, there's been a bit of a disbelief in your face and voice. What's been the difference? What has made this Onken start so strong?
This is obviously in combination because the first team's sort of struggling. And when you see scores like that, 9-1, and then you see other scores, I'm looking at Russian, top of the league, and combination, and their first team is sort of lower down. You just think, well, why don't they sort of get some of those players in? And sometimes it's just having a look at the players, see how well they're playing and go for it. To be fair, I think there's been a few little teething problems for Onken's first team, which needs to be sorted out. But I watched them against Peel, 2 weeks ago now, Rob, and I was impressed with the young players that are in there. And it's more of a just mature and develop, and keep 11 players on the park helps. But you've also got to look at the loss of 1 or 2 players to FC Isle of Man does harm them a little bit. But all the clubs are going through that as well. But credit to the combination side. And at the moment, when you look at what they've played, 5 games with 15 points, so maximum points. Credit to one and all, and credit to the management team and everything that seems to be going right for them.
Well, Tony Mepham, thank you very much as always.
Manx Radio Sport.
From a very busy day of football to another busy day in rugby now, and two of the Ireland sides were back in league action this afternoon, both looking to try and rectify what have been slow starts to their respective seasons. Douglas were back at Portashee in the Regional 2 North West hosting Vale of Loon, whilst Vagabonds were on their travels in Counties 3 ADM Lancashire Cheshire. Colin and Nelson, who they faced in Counties 4 ADM last season, both Douglas and Vagabonds looking to turn around a recent poor start to the season results-wise of 3 straight defeats in their respective divisions. Well, to go through what has been happening for Douglas and Vagabonds across the board today is our rugby correspondent Dave Christian. Dave, very good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Rob. And it's been a mixed day is probably the best way to describe it. Douglas broke their duck with a massive win down at Portashee, whereas Vagabonds were nilled away at Colin and Nelson. So Douglas excitement, Vagabonds disappointment are probably the best way to sum it up. 3 defeats on the bounce for Douglas coming into this game, and Vale of Loon, a Lancaster-based team, they were 4th place in Regional 2 North West, but this afternoon it didn't look like it at all. In the early exchanges, the two sides just traded penalties. Bryn Snellgrove get one for Douglas, and at the other end, pretty much straight away, Chris Ramwell knocked one over for Vale of Loon. Excuse me. With 25 minutes played, though, Douglas made the breakthrough. Hooker Gihard Vizagi, new signing from the summer, Namibian front rower. He crashed in for Douglas's opener, and he was quickly followed by Simon Hoddenot, who was a move from a line-out. A training ground move is probably the best way to describe it. And that 2 tries to Douglas. Snellgrove with 2 conversions as well. And at half-time, 17-3 up. Now, that's a relatively commanding position, but wandering around chatting to the Portashee faithful, it wasn't quite as exciting as I thought it was going to be, because Douglas have been in commanding positions at half-time before in their opening 3 games and not been able to close the game out. But it wasn't to be. Chris Ramwell did knock over a penalty early in the second half for the visitors, but Douglas by this stage had a sniff of blood, and they showed a ruthless streak that they lacked in their earlier matches and really piled on the points. Brendan Kelly finished off a Snellgrove break. Harry Hewson with a solo run. We reckon he might have beat 4 or 5 players on his way to the try line. That ensured Douglas had the try bonus point. Gerhard Vizagi, he drove over for his second, a catch and drive line out, that one was. And Sam McCord with a bit of raw pace out on the right wing. He crossed twice in the late stages. And among all that, Bryn Snellgrove kicked a second penalty and another 4 conversions, meaning he finished the game with 18 points. So everything ticked the boxes for Douglas. They won big. They picked up the bonus point as well. And they now have 2 weeks off before a visit to Sandbach on the 12th of October. So a good performance from Douglas. Coach Phil Kringle very happy with his side this afternoon. And they really looked the part in places. Against the team coming into the game, they were in 4th place. So, a lot of positives for Douglas this afternoon. For Vagabonds, however, there weren't really any positives at all. There were some new faces in the squad and some old faces too, as in Luke Purdy, former captain and prop forward. Luke Purdy sneaking in onto the Douglas bench, but Vagabonds bench even. But even with Luke Purdy's experience, they were well beaten this afternoon. 45-0 the final score. Colin and Nelson temporarily top. We're just waiting for another result to come in. And there's nothing really for Vagabonds to take away from that this afternoon. They have 2 weeks off as well. Next weekend is County Cup weekend. So Vagas now have 2 weeks off to lick their wounds before third place De La Salle visit Ballafletcher, and that's going to be a toughie for them. De La Salle, a Salford outfit, if I remember correctly, when Douglas were promoted to that Regional 2 level, it was after a promotion playoff at Portashee against De La Salle. The 2 sides were tied, and there was a promotion playoff to decide who went up. Douglas won. De La Salle obviously fallen away a little bit and dropped a couple of divisions, but they're going to be tough for Vagabonds at Ballafletcher on the 12th of October. And finally, Rob, there was a friendly. Manx Executive had organised a friendly, and the reason being it's very difficult with Only 3 sides playing locally: Ramsey, Southern Nomads and Western Vikings. So they're trying to put a little bit of fun element into it, and it was forwards versus backs this afternoon at the Mirrock Park, and it finished in a 45-45 draw, so there were plenty of tries over there. And among all that, there were hat-tricks for Matthew Meakin, Adam Dunlop, Kieran Neal and Jacob Cutine. And Ramsey's Jared May also picked up 2 tries, 1 for each team. Very unusual to see that.
Well, let's take a quick look then, just again at the competitive games that you've just covered rather comprehensively there, Dave. Regional 2 Northwest. Douglas to winning ways. What was the key today?
A really good performance from Bryn Snellgrove at 10. The little general, I called him. He's not particularly big in stature, but he's highly experienced. He's been around for a few times. They've just wheeled him out for the last 2 games. And really, that's made the difference for them. They picked up 2 bonus points away at Eccles last week, and today he just knows when to kick, when to pass, when to run, and he can find the gaps. He found a beautiful gap this afternoon. Thought he was going to score it himself, but he rather selfishly offloaded to Brendan Kelly, who was in support. They'd moved down the right-hand side. McCord had made a few hard yards. Recycled the ball inside. Mark Oldfield crashed into the fence, took out 3 or 4 defenders, and there was quick ball come out of that. Snellgrove, not as young as he used to be, but there was half a gap there, and he was through it one-on-one with the fullback, and he just popped the ball up to Brendan Kelly for the try. So Bryn Snellgrove really pulling the strings this afternoon. But in the forwards, there was good work as well. Liam Kirkpatrick was excellent. Simon Hoddenott, his usual self. The set scrum held its own. Nobody really dominated at scrum time, but Douglas just seemed to want it more this afternoon, and with Snellgrove in the driving seat, they were always going to get it.
And just finally, a quick word on Vagabonds. For those who didn't hear Friday Sport Preview last night and don't know a bit of the context between the two sides, these two were very evenly matched throughout the season in counties 4 ADM, Lancashire, Cheshire in the last campaign. But Colin and Nelson did manage wins both home and away against Vagabonds. That's quite a convincing scoreline for Colin and Nelson. Why such a big difference, do you maybe think, between these two sides, given how similarly placed they were in the last campaign?
Oh, sorry. Excuse me, Rob. Will I die quietly? Well, the first thing that we've had during the summer is Mark Oldfield moved from Vagabonds to Douglas. That gave Vagabonds a little bit of a problem in their back row. And also late on last season, the other back row king at Bella Fletcher, Ross Pullman, he suffered a serious knee injury. He's had some surgery on that, but he's nowhere near coming back. Today, there were lots of changes to the squad from last week as well. Joe Lowe wasn't on the team sheet. Tom Gascoigne, who scored 3 last week, wasn't on the team sheet either. And I'm guessing this is just the trials and tribulations of away matches. Joe Lowe's probably, without being rude to Joe, he's probably at the twilight end of his career. He may have picked up an injury last week. I haven't heard anything, but it could simply be work commitment and not able to travel. But with those changes in that team, and Luke Purdy played at Vagabonds a couple of seasons back. He hung his boots up and said he wasn't coming back, and it was a big surprise last night when the team sheet finally came through. Just seeing Luke Purdy, their eyebrow raised, and said, "Wow, Luke Purdy." That is a surprise. So Vagabonds perhaps are struggling a little bit for experienced players, and I know they've got a great youth section, and they're under 16s from last season were hoping to make the grade at 17, but it does take a while for young players to get integrated to the physicality of league rugby, and it may take a little bit of a while for Vagabonds this season, but I think it's personnel changes is probably the reason for today's defeat.
Dave Christian, thank you very much.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, now we're going to turn our attention to hockey and game week 4 of the 2024 Isle of Man mixed hockey season, and the early frontrunners across the division, some of which with unblemished records going into the weekend, looking to keep up their pristine records from the top flight all the way down to mixed division 3 in the senior leagues, and 3 more fixtures in the highly contested mixed under 15s league. And to go through it, as always, our hockey correspondent has once again been waiting very, very patiently, Ben Cunningham. Ben, good evening.
Good evening.
Well, let's dive straight into it. Mixed Premier League, we had 4 games today. 2 of those early pushbacks, 12:35. One of those at QE2 was a really crucial battle towards the bottom of the table between Vikings B and Valkyries B. Both teams, 3 defeats from their opening 3 games, no points on the board. That has changed now, and for Vikings B, beating Valkyries B by 6-3, Ben, a long way to go already, still in this season, I should say, but how crucial could this be in the battle at the bottom?
Yeah, this could be massive. Of course, Valkyries B were promoted up to the Premier League from winning Division 1 last season, so it was a big ask for them today, but Vikings B have meant business. Kyle Gundogan, Alex Andrews with 2, Eleanor Cayley with 2, and Josh Dougal with 1 for Vikings B. And then for Valkyries B, it was Michael Deal and Lizzie Neal, but a big result there for Vikings B, which will help them, definitely.
And on the flip side of that, for Valkyries B, as we say, nothing is said and done by any means at this point, but with a result like that, does that make points in the next league outings much more important for Valkyries?
Absolutely, and when they next play their nearest contender, which is probably going to be Backers B now, which we'll come to shortly, following their result today, that's going to be a huge game for them to make sure they get something out of it. Otherwise, it could be a long road ahead of them.
Well, the other 12:35 pushback in the Premier League was at Castle Rushen High School, and that saw the defending champions Valkyries A head to Castletown Celts. Valkyries A, one of 3 teams looking to keep up perfect records this weekend. Valkyries A, they have done so. It's now 4 wins from 4, but only just beating Castletown Celts by 3-2.
Yeah, and last week they only just got past Vikings B, and this week they've only just got past Castletown Celts. So Valkyries really on the edge at the minute, but they are getting the results that they need. Jess Loader, Oscar Lace and Greg Miller for Valkyries A. And then for Castletown Celts, it was George Powell and Corbin Stewart.
And one of the other teams with a perfect record in the mixed Premier League and the leaders going into this weekend, Backers A. What a start they'd had to the season from their 3 games they played going into today, scoring 24 times and conceding just 4 as well. A phenomenal record from the opening 3 games. They came up against the Harlequins A side, who probably on paper knew this was going to be a tough ask for them at the NSC today. But Harlequins A, a very valiant effort indeed. They've only just lost out to Backers A by 2-1, Ben.
Yeah, and they've really kept Backers' scoring form down today. Chris Whiting and Doug Quayle for Backers A, and then for Harlequins it was Ronan Santantoyo. One thing to note though, 0-0 at half time, so really good day out for Harlequins A there, keeping a clean sheet in the first half.
I mean, we saw something similar last week as well between Valkyries A and Vikings B, who of course got their first win today but lost last week to Valkyries A only by 1-0. So we're seeing some of the teams that we'd maybe associate with being towards the bottom end of the table fighting away from relegation, giving these top sides a run for the money.
Absolutely, and I mean we're only in week 4 of the league, so we're not at the halfway stage just yet. But the lead teams are starting to come out in some leagues, but in other leagues it is looking really close.
And the other game in the mixed Premier League saw Vikings A also looking to keep up their perfect record along with Valkyries A and Backers A. Vikings A, they have done that. They beat Backers B at QE2 today by 4-0.
Yeah, good result there for Vikings A, getting the 4-0 win over Backers B. Not the result Backers B will want. They joined Valkyries B on the nil side of things with no points on the board. For Vikings A, it was Sarah Blackman, Mia Greenwood, John Cooper and Kim Carney, but Backers A, Vikings A and Valkyries A all keep their 100% records.
And of course the league takes a break next week. We'll come to that in just a little bit. So moving on to mixed Division 1, the early pushback there at 11 o'clock at QE2 saw Valkyries C up against Vikings D. Vikings D going into this on the back of 3 straight defeats in their opening 3 games. The only team in mixed Division 2 not to have points on the board up against a Valkyries C side who could have moved joint top of the league had they won today and other results for them gone their way elsewhere. But big shock here early on in the season. Valkyries C 3, Vikings D 4.
Yeah, Vikings D have got the result at long last. They've been waiting for. It sounds like an absolute cracker of a game from the reports both sides have sent through. Really massive result though for Vikings D. That gives them their first points of the season. Joe Rooney with 2, Andy Harding with 1, Jacob Harding with 1, and then for Valkyries it was Chris Thomas with 2 and Mark Perryman.
And then the 2 pushback in Mixed Division 1 at Castle Rushen High School was one I know that you were keeping a keen eye on. The meeting of the top 2 teams in Mixed Division 1 so far. Bacchus C, top of the table, 3 wins from 3 on 6 points up against the Castletown Southerners side. Second after 3 games on 4 points with 2 wins and 1 defeat. And it is ended level at Castle Rushen High School today between these two sides. Bacchus C 1, Castletown Southerners 1.
Yeah, really close game, and we thought this was going to be close and possibly just come down to one bit of magic. And I mean, we did talk on Friday Sport that both defences could be the key to this game, and it has been. Ollie Christian for Bacchus C, and then for Castletown Southerners, it was Bree Collister.
And of course, I suppose it doesn't really teach us too much about that, other than that Bacchus C, will they maintain that 2-point gap? That could be crucial down the line.
Absolutely, could be very crucial come towards the end of the season. But like we say, we're not at the halfway point just yet.
Indeed, and the other game in Mixed Division 1 was a late pushback, 3:35 at QE2 in Peel. Ramsey A, of course, relegated last season. Slow start for them, just 1 win from their opening 3 games up against a Viking C side, also with a similar record, 1 win from 3, but behind Ramsey A on goal difference. Ramsey A getting back to winning ways here today by 2-1.
Yeah, Ramsey getting back to winning ways, like you say. For Vikings, it was Josh Knight, and then for Ramsey, it was Nat Smith with a brace.
And then we move into Mixed Division 2, and there was also a top 2 battle going on there in Mixed Division 2 as well between Bacchus Colts and Harlequins B. The early pushback at 11:05 at the NSC this morning, and Harlequins B coming out on top. They went into this 3 wins from 3. It's now 4 wins from 4. The only team with a perfect record in this division, beating Bacchus Colts in second by 4-2. That could be a big result, Ben.
Massive result, yeah, absolutely. And I think that gives them a gap of... You might have the league tables in front of you.
It'll be 2 points when we take into account a result that we're going to speak about in a moment.
Yeah, so Harlequins, really great result. And like you say, they keep their 100% record up. Corey Corkill, Tom Hurd and Caleb Blakemore with 2 goals for Harlequins. And then for Bacchus Colts, it was Will Wiseman and Ellie Pearson-Bass.
And the other result in question is between Castletown Camags and Valkyries D. Castletown Camags third in the table going into this weekend, but with Bacchus Colts losing out to Harlequins B, Castletown Camags 4-2 winners over Valkyries D. That promotes Camags up into second in the table, 2 points behind Harlequins B.
Yeah, Alistair Ledgers with 2, Eden McCubbin and Elliot Butler for Camags. And then for Valkyries D, it was Ellie Burns and Mark Moyer. Unfortunately, just Valkyries D just still struggling to find their form at the minute, but of course a 4-2 defeat is not a big loss today, so there's definitely something to take out of that game for them.
Well, another team that could have made up ground on the battle at the top was Castletown Cushags. They took on a Ramsey Ravens side at Ramsey Grammar School today that hadn't had no points on the board. In fact, 3 defeats in their first 3, Ramsey Ravens. But that has changed today, not by a massive scoreline, but that'll be a big 2 points on the board for them. Ramsey Ravens 1, Castletown Cushags 0.
Yeah, all the points at the moment are going to be crucial for Ramsey Ravens to keep them out of that relegation battle. And the man of the moment was Tom Howard.
Moving into Mixed Division 3, and 12:35, the earliest pushback there was at the NSC between Harlequins C and Bacchus Mixed Bucks. Harlequins C were 4th in the table going into this weekend, 1 win and 1 defeat in their opening 2 games. Bacchus Mixed Bucks, newly formed this season, 1 win in their opening 3, but have impressed a couple of teams so far despite not picking up maximum points at this stage. Now, Ben, when we spoke last week, I've got a bit of a deja vu here. We did end up with a game, I'm not sure if it was in this particular division, off the top of my head for just a moment, but a rarity in hockey. We had a goalless draw, and we said that these come around very, very rarely indeed. Well, it's now a second week in a row because it's finished Harlequins C 0, Bacchus Mixed Bucks 0. We're bucking the trend here.
Yeah, a second week with a 0-0 score. Really, like you say, really rare to see them in Manx hockey, and from the reports I've had from both captains, both sides were just so evenly matched that they just couldn't be separated.
Well, going into Mixed Division 3, there were 2 teams at the top with 100% records, 3 wins from 3. They were Castletown Cosney and Vikings E. Well, Castletown Cosney ahead on goal difference, and they've really boosted that yet again today. They've had a commanding victory over Ramsey Rookies at Ramsey Grammar School by 8-0.
Yeah, really commanding result there, and like I say, it keeps them top of the division in Division 3. Sophie Fifian with 4, Kieran Collister with 3, and Dulce Fierce with 1.
And the other game, which was a late pushback, 3:35 at Castle Rushen High School between Backers D and Castletown Carrick. Castletown Carrick bottom with 2 defeats from their opening 2 behind Ramsey Rookies on goal difference. And Backers D with 1 win from their opening 3 games, 5th in the table. Ben, that's a result I personally didn't have a few minutes ago, but I believe you've got it now.
Yeah, and that was a 5-1 win to Backers D. For Castletown Carrick, it was Gerald Eelsman. And then for Backers D, I apologise if I get your last name wrong, Michael Cardhandles with 5 goals. So he's definitely had his Weetabix this morning.
But that's a big jump for Backers D, just doing some quick maths here, but because of the draw between Harlequin C and Backers Mixed Bucks, that elevates Backers D 2 places up into 3rd, Mixed Bucks drop to 4th, and Harlequin C to 5th. So Backers D, they've capitalised on the 2 teams above them dropping points.
Yeah, and like we say, all these leagues are looking really interesting at the moment, and this weekend, with some of the lower teams getting points off some of the higher teams, it's making the leagues a bit more interesting, and it's going to be interesting come the following few weeks ahead.
Indeed. Well, those are the results in the senior leagues. We had 3 games again in the very highly contested mixed under-15s league. The first of those was an early pushback, 11 at Castle Rushen High School. Valkyries 2, Castletown Sabres 2, Ben.
Yeah, really interesting result this. I thought Valkyries might have come away with it. The last few games they've looked really good, but Castletown Sabres are really proving themselves today. Christopher Crompton Harvey and Charlie Verlerga for Castletown Sabres. And then for Valkyries, it was Ryan Thomas and Jacob Loader.
And then 2 3:35 pushbacks. The first of those are the NSC. Harlequins 0, Backers 4.
Yeah, Grace Evans with 2 and Ollie Partings with 2 for Backers, and a really good result there for Backers.
And last but certainly not least, at Ramsey Grammar School, it finished Ramsey 5, Castletown Sharks 0.
Yeah, Ramsey will be happy with that result, especially after their result last week, just narrowly losing out to Harlequins. Toby Bashford with 3 and Ollie Gamble with 2.
So those are your league results during the day today. And again, Ben, as we may be expected and has been a bit of a pattern across the leagues in previous years, a couple of teams keeping up those perfect records at the top. But at some point, someone's got to falter.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we say, the leagues take a break next weekend. And when we return back to league action, of course, those teams with 100% records are going to meet each other, and unfortunately, maybe one of them's going to lose, or it might be a stalemate when they both meet.
Well, when you talk about that break, that brings us on nicely. Just we'll give a quick mention as well to the fact that next week, if you hadn't worked it out already, attention turns away from the league and to the first rounds of the Mixed Cup competitions for 2024. The Mixed Cup, Mixed Plate and Mixed Bowl. We'll just take a quick look at the draw which happened earlier this month. The ties will be played next Saturday, the 5th of October. And as we understand it at the moment, Ben, are venues and pushback times still to be confirmed?
No, they have all being confirmed, so if I just get it up for you.
Well, while you're getting that information in front of you, I'll just run quickly through the ties that we're expecting next week in the Mixed Cup. Vikings A versus Backers B, Vikings B versus Castletown Celts, and what a fixture this is for the opening round of the Mixed Cup. Defending Mixed Premier League champions Valkyries A up against defending Mixed Cup champions Backers A, and Harlequins A getting a bye into the next round.
Absolutely. So the fixtures are as follows for next week. So we look at the venues. At the NSC at 11 o'clock, we'll have Vikings D against Castletown Southerners in the plate. 12:35 will be Vikings B against Castletown Celts in the cup. 2:05 at the NSC will be Vikings A against Backers B in the cup. And then 3:35 will be Vikings C against Backers C in the plate. At Peel, QE2, we're going to have 11 o'clock. It'll be Valkyries D against Castletown Cushags in the bowl. Harlequins B against Vikings E in the bowl at 12:35. 2 o'clock will be Valkyries A against Backers A in the cup. And then we've got one under-15s game, which is at 3:35 at QE2, and that's Valkyries against Vikings. And then at Castle Rushen High School, we have no fixture at 11 o'clock. 12:35 will be Ramsey Ravens against Castletown Camags in the bowl. And then 2 under-15s fixtures to finish off the day at Castletown. We've got at 2:05 Harlequins against Castletown Sabres, and then Backers against Castletown Sharks, and that's 3:35 at Castle Rushen High School.
Thank you very much indeed, Ben, for that, and we'll hopefully have that information in the coming days on the Manx Radio website as well. Well, Ben, very quickly, we've just got a couple of minutes to wrap this up, but just coming back to these first round cup competition fixtures, we've already talked about the Mixed Cup on a couple of occasions, the standout tie there, the Premier League champions up against the current cup holders, Valkyrie and Bakazay, that's to come in the first round. But elsewhere, let's take a look at the mixed plate here, and just looking at one of these ones, Vikings D up against Castletown Southerners. Now, a week ago, you'd have probably said on paper that this only had one real winner, but the fact that Castletown Southerners, they're still in touch with Bakassi at the top, but Vikings D, crucially, who hadn't won up until this point, winning this weekend, does that change the mentality a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when it comes to the cup fixtures, their teams for the cup fixtures could be different to their league teams, so when we put it in that perspective, basically, if you play for example, if you played for Vikings D in the cut or in the plate, you're then tied to that team, so you can't then play for any other team in your club. So the teams could be slightly different to the way they form for the league, but then it could really make things interesting, especially that Vikings D got that crucial win today, and especially over a Valkyrie Seaside, who's had a really good start.
And the other fixtures in the mixed plate next week in the opening round, Viking C versus Backersby, and then there are byes for both Valkyrie C and Ramsey A. And then in the mixed bowl, now this is a slightly different competition, so we've got the mixed cup, which involves the Premier League sides, the mixed plate, which involves the Division 1 teams, but then the mixed bowl is a combination of teams from both mixed Division 2 and 3. And one of those fixtures that involves teams from two different divisions. Harlequins B, top of Mixed Division 2. Vikings E, second at the moment in Mixed Division 3. 2 points behind Castletown Cosney, but with a game in hand. Yes, there's a division between these two teams, but they'll both go into this with a great deal of confidence.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that'll be another good tie as well. Out of the fixtures in the bowl, Harlequins on high, 4 wins out of 4. But then, of course, Vikings E, okay, they didn't play this weekend, but they have got a 100% record as well. So both teams going into that one on good form.
And the other fixtures that will be taking place in the mixed bowl next week, Ramsey Ravens versus Castletown Camags, and then also Valkyries D versus Castletown Cushags, and Bacchus Colts, they will have a bye into the next round. And just finally, Ben, do we have an idea yet that once these fixtures are played, when we may get the next round of cup fixtures, or is it yet to be confirmed?
Yep, I've got the dates and everything, and we'll have them all for you for next week when we have all the teams, and we'll be able to say who's playing who in the next rounds.
Excellent. Well, Ben, thank you very much indeed. Once again, we'll be catching up with Ben later in the next week as well for Friday Sport Preview once again. And, of course, going into next Saturday when those Mixed Cup first-round fixtures will be taking place in Isle of Man hockey. That's just about all we have time for here on Saturday Sport Classified here on Manx Radio AM 1368. If you've missed out on any of the results that we've talked about in the show and in the full-time show before that this evening, they will be available shortly over on the Manx Radio website. And if you want to listen back to any of the reaction and analysis from this evening's show, that will be available as a podcast shortly after, also over at manxradio.com. Thank you very much for joining us. We will now be handing back over to Manx Radio Gold. Have yourself a wonderful Saturday evening and a wonderful rest of your weekend as well, whatever you're doing. But from us, until next time, it is bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.